This episode is sponsored by Wix Studio.
When is the last time you listened to a podcast about web development, web design, and small business and didn't fall asleep? Yes, we cover web development, web design, and small business, but like actual human beings with personalities. If you're a beginner, we're not going to talk over your head. It's more like asking your buddy for help. We have guests, we have fun, and let me tell you, these two can get off on a tangent. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HTML All the Things Podcast. This is Matt Lawrence and Mike Curran.
That's right, everybody. We are back. This is the HTML All Things Podcast. This episode is titled, How to Actually Enjoy the Holidays as a Web Developer. So this is going to be one of two holiday episodes because Christmas and New Year's are in a bit of a weird spot this year, like smack dab, right in the middle of the week, Wednesday and Wednesday. So we're going to have two sort of lighter listening episodes for you. I'm going to call them maybe holiday specials because they're related to the holidays. So this is the first one. I'll have another one next week, which is sort of our 2024 year in review, and then moving into 2025. And then more technical episodes, of course, will continue into the new year. But most of you guys are probably, if you are going to listen to this during the holidays, you're going to want a lighter listening experience because you're not going to be like, man, like the whole family's in the other room, but how does that CSS property work? What does that node function? What's this and that? You're not going to be doing that. So if you want to learn how to actually enjoy the holidays as a web developer, and this sounds interesting to you, that doesn't transition well. If this sounds interesting to you and you want to support the show, you can go and check us on that Patreon. Leave a review rating on your podcast app. Join us in our Discord server or share this with your friends. Now, Mike, you are the one that wrote this first of two holiday-centric episodes. So why don't you take this one away?
Will do. And I think like what you mentioned as well, where like you don't want to be in that situation in the holidays where you're like, oh, I want to listen to like hardcore CSS. I mean, I don't think that applies to absolutely everyone. Some people are learning on the holidays, but if you're already someone that's like knee deep in the CSS on the holidays, I would highly recommend you to take that break. And this is what this episode's about. It's about taking better breaks, preparing for breaks. I think that's really important as well, because I think people get into the holidays without preparing, and then all of a sudden they're bombarded with a million, requests to do things. They haven't told anyone that they're going for a holiday. They haven't, given anyone any notice about what they left behind, like what they didn't do, what they're going to do in January and stuff like that. And that could cause more issues down the line that you could have avoided if you had have just prepared even a little bit and just gotten ready to actually take a break. And I know it seems weird to have to like prepare to take a break, but the reason that we're doing that is to be able to actually disconnect. This is something that's been lost, in my opinion, over the last, especially like since COVID, when everyone went home, everyone's working from home. The ability to disconnect is something that's actually difficult now. And you actually have to put effort into to, turn off notifications, make sure that everything is backed up, make sure that everything is good to go before you take that break. Nothing is relying on you and all of that, just to be able to like, oh, okay, I can not look at my notifications on my phone and just actually do the stuff that I want to do and not work. So it's really important that you allow yourself to do that, right? And it's really important to set yourself up for success while doing that as well. So with that, let's get into the first topic here, which is what do you do like pre-holiday planning, right? First thing is communicate early and set boundaries. So if you have clients, for instance, you're a freelancer and you have a bunch of clients, an example of this can be a message that you send out maybe at the beginning of December that, hey, I'll be offline from December 24th to January 2nd. If there's anything urgent, let's make sure that we finalize everything by December 20th. So it sets a couple different things. It tells the clients that you're going to be offline, which means that you will not be answering any messages, right? And there's also setting that boundary of like, hey, I'm not even going to start anything new after 20th, or I'm not even going to address anything after the 20th. If we address something before the 20th, I'll try to get it fixed before the 24th, but if nothing comes in before that, if you don't contact me before the 20th, then I will not process those requests until we're back from the holidays, right? So you're kind of giving them notice of many different things in that one short little sentence, and also just setting expectations. Because if you don't send a message to your clients, then the expectation is that you're working, because the clients don't care. Like, I just want to be clear here, and it's not like a malicious thing. It's on their part is just like you're a function of their system, And if they're working, you're working. And some people do work during the holidays, whether it be for religious reasons or like they just don't celebrate, they celebrate holidays later, or just people that are workaholics, right? Like some people do work during the holidays. So expecting someone not to work just because it's a holiday is not the right play. You have to vocalize your intent to take time off. Just be clear about it. It's important. Like again, you might think it's pedantic, but over communicating these timelines and making sure that your managers know, right? Like clarifying your role as well. Like if you're not a freelancer, but an employee at a company, a lot of companies will have time off during the holidays, but people kind of sometimes don't know the concrete value of that. Like what is time off? Are you on call? Is it only the 24th and the 25th? Can you take more time off? Like giving yourself a little bit of time to communicate with the managers and getting an established, hey, what does this time off actually mean to me is important, because then you know, like, hey, I can disconnect these days. I can actually do that. Whereas if you don't say anything and the management doesn't clarify anything, there's a chance that you might get pinged on the randomly on the 24th, and it's almost nobody's fault other than the fact that nothing was communicated, right? So just important to over communicate in these situations.
Well, we've had the discussion in the past as well. I think it might have even been with a guest years and years ago now, where we were kind of talking about, I don't even know what you'd really call it, but sort of the stereotype of when you say that you're going to go on vacation in the tech industry, in the development industry, IT, things like that. Oftentimes, for whatever reason, things seem to ramp up, and you might just think that that's bad luck, but it seems like things seem to ramp up for you. And what you and I have kind of figured it is that some clients, and I do mean some, not all of them do this, obviously, but some clients go like, whoa, well, if Matt or if Mike are going on vacation, that means that they've pushed everyone else aside, and that means they'll look at my stuff first. And that means they'll look at my stuff primarily, and they'll have a clear slate, and they'll just quickly do my thing for me really, really fast. And it'll be not only quick, but they'll respond a lot. And it becomes a problem when you have multiple clients and then a couple of them fall into this boat where they're just constantly, absolutely spamming the crap out of you. And then you get the classic excuses like, well, it's ridiculous. Like, you're a business owner. You shouldn't be off these days and this and that. And it becomes this like weird argument. And so, communicating clearly and then being able to sort of bring up those deadlines, like you said, and saying, hey, like, I won't be around, I'm not going to answer from these dates and things, are things you can absolutely point to, which is important. I think the one problem is like with some of these, like, kind of, I don't even know what you'd call them, more urgent clients, more rude, maybe even clients. The problem with them is that, like, sometimes they don't care about that. And so you just, what I've been saying lately is what we've been doing. This does not work for everybody and everyone's kind of customer service mantra, but what I do is I just be firm. Like, sorry, man, like I said this, kind of quote my quote of like, hey, these are the dates I'm off. And, your theory email will be answered in turn. If it's urgent, whatever, we can maybe figure something out or whatever the parameters are that I've laid out. But I'm sticking to what I said. And there are a few people that I will absolutely kind of go out of the way for, and a few situations as well. Like if someone just like legitimately made a mistake and they need me to write like the word sale in holiday colors on their Webflow site, like, okay, fine. Like, that's not really a problem. But if it's something like, hey, I accidentally forgot to give you these 6 pages that you need to make. They've been on my desk for 12 weeks and, I'd love them done, in a week and a half. And since you're not doing anything else, would you mind just getting these done? Like, no. Like, unfortunately, there's like a consequence for you not giving them to me. Like, I don't want to sound like that, like I'm not their parents or something like that, or their mentor. But sometimes you do need to be firm with people in that way.
It's super important to be firm on boundaries, and it's also super important to know when to be firm on boundaries. Like, I think you brought up those 2 perfect points of like, hey, if the client's been super good for years and all of a sudden something has come up during the holidays and you're around a computer, you're probably going to do something for them because they've been good to you. They've been paying on time. They haven't taken advantage of the situation before, and something actually went down or something like that. So yeah, at those points, maybe the boundaries you set aren't going to be like kept. But for the most part, for clients that, well, especially if clients have already taken advantage of you in these situations, you have to be firm. But even for like just non-urgent requests, like Matt said, hey, we have this page that needs to be done in a week and a half and I didn't give you the material. That's not an urgent request. Your site isn't down. Nothing's going to change if we do this page in a couple weeks, other than the fact that you might not be able to get your sales target or whatever. But that's, again, not really your problem because it wasn't communicated effectively on their end. So you have to set boundaries. You have to stick to those boundaries, which is easier said than done, I should say, because a lot of times you just want to be like appeasing to your clients. But your clients will respect you more if you, first of all, communicate clearly to them, and second of all, stick to the communication that you give to them. If you go wishy-washy on everything both ways, they could take that as just weakness. And even if it's not inherent, they could actually like think less of you. It's a weird human situation, but I've seen that happen in my own interactions with clients. And usually the more strict I am with things that like should be strict, the more respect I get. So just anecdotally.
One thing I want to add to that is if you're strict through a serious situation, really kind of gains you a bit of respect, at least in my experience. So if it's something like the client keeps moving the deployment date or something, or the launch date of something, and they move it all over the place, like, January 1st, no, February 2nd, no, it's actually March, you know what? We're going to wait for the summer, and then it ends up landing right in your summer vacation. Some people would panic and be like, well, I guess I'm canceling my summer vacation, only to wait for the summer, and then we push it to fall, right? I just will straight up say, like, hey, I'm actually not around that week. And even though I'm quote unquote needed, like, it sucks, but I'm needed. But like, you guys moved it around 3 or 4 times, and you moved it around 3 or 4 times, like across a bunch of weeks. It wasn't like I've scheduled my vacation on the same date that you were trying to like schedule things, right? Like, it wasn't like you said, hey, keep June free. And then I was like, well, tomorrow I'm planning a vacation in June. So, too bad. So like, and it sucks saying that too, because some people will say, like, for your career's sake, you should stick around. And maybe those people would do better in their careers. Like, it's possible. I don't know. But there does come a point when it's like, hey, like I'm like we're both people in this room, and like, you're going to take time off. I'm going to take time off. Like, it's just the way it is. That's just, I don't know. It's just the way it is. Like, it's one of those, it feels weird to say that as a person who is public facing, as a person who's running an agency, who's talking to the public, who's there for customer service and things like that. But there are times where you have to just say to people, that's not going to be doable. And that's it. Unfortunately, sorry, man. Bend as much as you will to provide the customer service you want to provide, but do know that there are limitations.
Love it. The next thing here is delegate or document tasks. So this is important too. When you're working on a system with a team of people and you're in charge of one component of that system, and let's say you have a bunch of people that are in charge of different components of that system, to make it easier for your team to be able to like actually support you. Let's say you have an on-call schedule, which we'll talk about next. But if you do have that and they need to support you and not call you, the more documentation you have and the more cross-training you do with your team, the easier it's going to be for them to be able to go in and be like, oh, okay, so here are the common issues that could happen, right? Like, you have that in the documentation. Here's how to solve those common issues. Easy documentation you can write up before you leave. And then they'll go through those issues, see if that issue is the right issue, do your remediation steps, and everything will be fine. They'll never have to contact you. Again, you're trying to give yourself a way to disconnect fully. If you don't leave this documentation, you just leave it up to chance, then the chances are that the person is not going to know how to solve the issue, and they're going to have to contact you, therefore taking you out and not letting you disconnect effectively. So it's going to benefit you a lot during the vacation times. It's going to benefit the team a lot when you have to pass over tasks. It's going to benefit the code that you're writing a lot, because you're going to have to think about it a little bit more, maybe even refactor it. Documentation is actually a super important part of development, and I know we never have time for it. This is a typical, development trope of like, hey, I have to keep pushing features. But it's up to you to push back on your project management team or your development lead or whatever to be like, hey, this is why we need documentation. If you don't do this, then this is what can happen. I won't be able to disconnect. You won't be able to disconnect. We'll have systems go down for longer if we don't have the documentation properly. So you need to own that process of like pushing documentation onto your team, because if you don't have it, it's going to backfire on not just you, but everyone else. Next thing here is prepare for emergencies. So stuff can go down. So just because the 24th or the 25th of December doesn't mean that your server can't go down or someone can't break your site, right? It's just the reality of the situation. So you need to create a set of procedures for being able to like restore from a backup really easily, right? You need to be able to have automated monitoring services that like ping you on Slack or something like that when something actually does go down, so you're not constantly checking. Set up systems that allow you to, again, disconnect, but if something actually does go down and you're the one in charge, to be able to be notified of when something goes down outside of like a work Slack or something like that. So take some time to do that. Take some time to set up some monitoring to give yourself peace of mind that you're good to go. And second of all, if you're on a team or if you're a team lead or something like that, set up a good on-call schedule. Right now, that's kind of what I've been working on over the past couple weeks. Just one of the things that I need to do before we went on our 2-week break. And we have an on-call schedule where everyone should only have one day that they're on call during the entire holidays, right? Not a big deal. I don't anticipate anyone having any serious issues during those on-call days, honestly. We haven't pushed any serious production stuff during the last couple weeks on purpose. This is another point of like, don't set up critical deployments before the holidays. Obviously, give yourself a little bit of time before, like set a deadline of, hey, code freeze on the 15th of December, right? And then therefore that could really help you not, work out all the wrinkles that code freeze could have, that final deployment could have. And then by the 20th of December, you're in a stable situation that you probably won't need anyone on call, but it's good to have people, good to notify what on call means. I think a lot of times people just say, oh, you're on call. Like, okay, does that mean I'm just I'm sitting there and monitoring everything? Like I have 15 screens and I can't like sleep that day or something like that. Like, no, usually not the case. Usually what on call means for us is check your Slack, keep your Slack notifications on. Everything that is critical should go through there. If someone notices something, they'll ping you through there. Every once in a while, if you want to check on the sites, you can, but you don't have to. So it's just literally an indicator of like, hey, this engineer will keep a Slack on and everyone else can turn their Slack notifications off. That's mostly what on-call means for us. And it could vary between company and teams and stuff like that.
On-call, or 10X engineers don't do that, Mike. They're always on call.
On-call, yeah.
And there's no coding freeze because any wasted time is wasted productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered being a 10X engineer?
It's a skill issue. That means that your environment isn't set up for being able to deploy on December 24th without any issues.
Oh, no, not the 4th, not 24th. We prepare 25th. On the 24th and we ship on the 25th. All hands, everything. War rooms pre-set up in case there's any issues. We do huge feature pushes on the 25th and on the 1st. Just give me some other holidays. This isn't a holiday, but we'll ruin people's dates. February 14th.
I've been doing some interviews, like some company interviews for different departments lately, and a lot of times people like I'll ask them like, hey, you can ask me questions now, and a lot of times they'll be like, why should I join Cypherin, the company that I'm working for right now? And there's a lot of reasons why you should, but like I should just be like, oh, because we ship on the 24th and the 25th and the 1st like,
of December.
Yeah, just know that you will be ready. You'll have to be ready to go on only holidays. All holidays is our ship days. No,
unless your family contributes to our repo, do they provide any value to your career looking forward? Yeah. It's just
like something at the dinner table. Just could you please just write a commit, please?
No. Why are you at the dinner table? Why aren't you at in your office?
Well, my office is the dinner table.
Oh man.
Yeah, they have their MacBook set up and eating mashed potatoes.
It's also my and this isn't a joke. It's also my bed.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little bit of a yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Just to give people context, had a bit of an incident with a furnace this past weekend, and slept at a dining room table for 2 hours. I
don't know if that's enough context for people.
No, like, I want to leave it mysterious. Like, it's nothing. Right, yeah. It's nothing like
a furnace and a dining room table do not mix. Like people, like it just doesn't make any sense. Like why would in that situation, if the furnace goes down, I would not think to go to a dining room table.
I was woken up by the cold, was like, man, I'm going to go get some water. Went to go get some water and was like, okay, I'm going to sit down because I'm still tired. And then fell asleep for the rest of the night at a dining room table.
And again, like that whole situation doesn't make sense. And I'm sure, listen, post at me at HTML everything if you understand what Matt is talking about. Like why you think that like when you're cold, you would go and wrap yourself in more blankets and find a spot that's not the dining room table. Like the dining room table is the last spot I would go to during that time.
To be fair, like I didn't mean to stay there. I was like more like, man, I'm thirsty and I'm just going to like have some water and sit down because I'm tired and it's the middle of the night. And then I ended up just like waking up at like 7 a.m. with the birds. And I was like, oh, I've been sitting at this dining room table for a very long time.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Well, to allow you to sit at the dining room table even more, the next section of this podcast episode, disconnecting effectively. I mean, without disconnecting, Matt would not be able to sit at a dining room table all night. So this is a super crucial section. Why is it crucial to unplug? Well, if you are constantly plugged in, and I'm not talking about you 10x developers out there. It's true. There's some people out there that need to be constantly plugged in. That's fine. You do you. All good. For normal people, for us normies, you need to disconnect. Like, you need to get away from work for many different reasons. You need it for like your mental health. You need it for being able to problem solve. Like, I've noticed myself significantly lower my ability to problem solve the more connected I am. The less I step away from the code or like the Slack, the everything, like the notifications, the more like anxious I am about getting the certain task that I'm doing, and I do it in a janky way. Whereas if I just take a step back, go to the gym, relax for a bit, or just have an actual vacation, I usually come back with a better approach to whatever I'm working on, regardless of what it is. I'm sure it's a documented effect of some sorts. I don't have any documents to prove it or anything like that, but you need to take time to not be fully engulfed in whatever work you're doing. Developers, I feel like, and this might apply to many different industries, obviously, but for developers, especially from my understanding, they are very like in it. They're super, like, the code is just so engulfing. And so, like, I see a lot of people on the team that I'm working on right now are just constantly talking about the code, constantly like thinking about all different ways that they can implement stuff. And that can wear you down, even if you're not noticing it effectively. Like, if you're not like, oh, you're not feeling burnt out, you could be starting to be burnt out without that. So it's really important to be able to unplug. How do you unplug? Unless, Matt, you had something to say? Oh,
yeah. I just wanted to say that, like, I'm one of those people that doesn't notice that I'm starting to like do the janky stuff until it's, I wouldn't say too late, but until I'm just like, whoa, why the hell am I doing it this way? And then you kind of catch yourself, and then it's like, all right, let's just take a break. There's even times where, because like what I'll usually do with my deadlines or with my work schedule is like obviously give myself a buffer. And sometimes like the buffer is there to be used, right? It's always great to under promise and over deliver, but sometimes it's like, you know what, like I'm going to take a step back and then just deliver this on the actual deadline in order to have that step back. And sometimes I end up actually, not only do I not do the janky stuff when I've taken a step back and unplugged for a bit, but also I actually do better or faster work sometimes when I come back. And then therefore I end up getting it done quicker anyway. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about unplugging during the holidays specifically. I know that that's sort of the topic of today, but I just mean sometimes I'll be like, you know what, like today is not the day. Like today I'm going to do some busy work in the business. I'll just kind of throw on a show and, kind of do some of my taxes and stuff, and I'll still be productive. These are things that were going to have to be done this week or next week anyway. But today's not the day for me to jump in and, kind of rip this whole site apart. Because if something goes wrong, I'm not really equipped to deal with it today. I'm half asleep or whatever the case is. Devs, this one's for you. I've got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things you can do in 30 seconds or less on Studio. Integrate, extend, and write custom scripts in a VS Code-based IDE. Leverage zero setup dev, test, and production environments. Ship faster with an AI code assistant. And work with Wix headless APIs on any tech stack. Time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio and see for yourself. Link in the show description and in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point to like be able to plug into your own kind of cognition and be like, okay, this is not the day for that. And that it takes some time and it takes some effort and it takes some trial and error, right? Like you won't know right away if you're just starting out coding. You won't know when you're most effective until you write some janky code and realize that you're not effective. So just let yourself find that out. Don't be too focused on it, but know that eventually you'll get into a rhythm where you understand that and you can kind of mitigate it by like doing some more busy work and stuff like that to get back into a more coding rhythm later on. Next here is I have some tips to stay offline. So I kind of mentioned a little bit in the pre-holiday planning how to make it easier for you to kind of get into this mode where, you prepare for emergencies, make sure you document stuff, you communicate everything. When you get after that, when you're actually like doing the vacation, turn off your notifications. That's number one. Like turn off your Slack notifications, turn off your email notifications, turn them off. You've already prepared, right? You've done the work to prepare. You're good. There's someone covering you. You're good. Relax, turn them off. And I'm more almost saying this to myself because I'm really bad at this. I'll keep them on and then I'll just keep checking and then I'll like, it will take me out of my disconnection or take me out of the zone of like just relaxing. This holiday, I am going to turn them off. Like I know who's covering. I know they can still contact me in certain ways if something actually goes down. I'm going to turn them off. So I'm going to implore you all out there that are workaholics, if you're off, turn them off.
I attribute this to almost kinetic energy. It sounds weird, but I'll explain it. Like kinetic energy is like, if like a tanker truck is driving down a road, goes to like stop the water inside of the tanker, the gas, whatever it is, wants to like continue moving forward due to kinetic energy, right? I attribute that to this, and if you can accept the kinetic energy and let it settle, like the truck will stop and the water does not continue stopping or does not continue going, obviously. You let it settle, and that's actually what I attribute this to. Is you have the momentum and you want to keep going, you want to keep checking things. And not only is it a habit, but it's something maybe you want to do or think you should do or think you're obligated to do. But the longer you stay away from the actual notifications, you'll just notice like, at least in my case, I noticed like, oh, this is kind of nice. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not checking my Slack. I'm just sort of like chilling or doing whatever. And I actually learned this weirdly when we went to a cottage that just like straight up wasn't in the cell reception zone. So I'm like, well, I literally can't do anything and I'm not going to run to the town every 15 minutes, literally run to the town because like our cars are all like kind of packed in like sardines to like get reception. Like that's lunacy. Because even if I get reception when I'm out here, what am I supposed to do? Like bring a laptop and hope the internet in the town is good and this remote town's good? Like that's like likely not going to happen. So that's honestly what I contribute it to. It's a weird thing, like kind of to bring up kinetic energy, but it's the way I kind of see it in my head, and I take faith in that, like that water or that habit will settle.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing you can do to help out, like I feel like this is actually really difficult nowadays to stay offline because you're connected to so many different things on so many different devices. Like how are you going to even turn off notifications on your work stuff, but not your regular stuff? Like I feel that just saying turn it off is a little bit difficult. Some practical advice is having split devices. So Matt has a work phone and a like a normal phone. On holidays, you would just not bring the work phone. Like just turn it off, leave it at home, right? Not everyone has that. So another option is to maybe log out of your work accounts. Having said that, kind of a pain in the ass. Like logging out of all work accounts and logging back in later on, like kind of a pain in the ass. But if you're at the point where you need to just clock off, log out. But ideally you would have split devices. And what you would do is the morning of your first day off, when you don't have to be logged in or anything, clean your desk, remove all work-related notes, remove all work-related stuff, remove your work laptop, connect your desktop, your gaming desktop, whatever, and just have it clean. Like have your desk be different than when you're at work. Because if you're if you're a gamer, a lot of us are, and you're going to be sitting down at the same desk that you're going to be working at, I've noticed that my mind just has trouble switching, and I'll instinctively catch myself trying to like check the email and trying to like check my Slack for whatever reason, even though like I know that I don't need to. So having the physical removal of those devices and having just a different environment, a cleaner environment and just slightly different, helps me disconnect a little bit more. So that's just like kind of like a personal tip that I do and that I've used. But know that it's not easy. Like you're probably going to fail at this initially. You'll need to work on it a little bit. But the more you work on it, the better you are at disconnecting. In my opinion, it'll make you better when you come back. So that's the most important thing. Like you're doing this not to be a dick about work. You're doing this to be better at work later on. Like you're going to be better if you actually are able to relax. That's why companies give you time off. They're not doing it to help you. Just to be clear, like we live in a capitalist society. Companies could care less about you. Look, realistically, like it's just the reality. They're doing it because they've noticed that if people have time off, they are more productive when they get back.
If only we could all be like Bradley Cooper in Limitless.
Exactly. Next thing here, say no without guilt. So if someone is able to contact you and it's a non-urgent request, tell them no. This is like we talked about this a little bit before about like, superficial stuff that comes up. Like, hey, I forgot to send you this and I had it on my desk for 12 weeks. No, again, easier said than done. Easier said than done. But saying it in a nice way too, like not maybe just not no, that might be a little bit harsh, but something like, I'd love to help you, but I'm honestly, I'm prioritizing my time off right now. I need this for myself because I've noticed myself burning out a little bit. So I would love to just help you as soon as I get back in January or February or March, whatever your schedule is like. And we'll get right on this. So like, be kind and be salesy a little bit, and understand like their point of view. I think just being apathetic a little bit to the fact why they're contacting you and not being a dick is going to go a long way to have that no be accepted and moved on, right? So just know that it could come up, but have that response kind of ready to go in your back pocket.
I would say something else too, is that I would recommend you answer the people as quickly as possible. Don't let it kind of weigh on you. I know that like I have a bad tendency to do this in everything from like social interactions, which are non-work related, and then obviously work related ones as well. And I'll let certain interactions actually bother me. Like some emails, of course, where it's like, hey man, let me know in a couple of days. Like I can get like wait and not have any guilt. But sometimes it's like someone bringing something up and then I'm like thinking about it. Like the best way, at least for me, to sort of deal with it is I just don't let it snowball, because that's what it will do in my mind. I'll just push them off. Now, Mike made a good comment, like don't push everything to January because it's just going to back everything up. What I'll do is I will actually do this. However, I do it with a twist. So I say like, I'm going to push this to January, but I'll say like, I'm going to start my scheduling in January and I'll reach out to you. Because that way I don't have to think about like, oh, like, I already told someone else February. I already told someone else March. I don't want to think about all that when I'm off. What I'll do is I'll just do that and just sort of say in January and like black box it a little bit with the parameter of January, so that they're aware that sometime in that first week, likely, maybe even the second week back, I'll reach out with a date and not be, something really specific that I'm going to have to like run around or be like, oh shoot, I just double booked somebody in February. Now what do I do? And then you got to like reach back out and it's a whole mess. So that's just what I do. I deal with responses quickly and I deal with them in that way. So I do kind of offload a lot of my work to January, but not the actual work itself, just the scheduling. So the lesser of the time consuming things.
Yeah. I think, and like you transition to exactly the point that I wanted to make is like, if don't push everything to January, because if you're going to be concrete about dates with everyone and be like, I'll handle this in January. I'll handle this in January about everything that you get past like the 10th of December. When you get back, you're going to get punched in the face, just full on punch in the face. And I have the next segment here is about avoiding burnout, even after the holidays. This is the thing that can kill people in terms of burnout. If you push everything with a concrete date to January, trust me, you're going to make people very angry, because you're not going to be able to deliver. So you need to set realistic expectations. I think, Matt, you brought up a good point. Like, hey, we'll prioritize this in January. Hey, we'll talk about this in January. Give yourself that breathing room. Give yourself a little bit of time to push back. And then, yes, hit them with a concrete date as soon as you possibly can, or at least a concrete date to start the project as soon as you possibly can, because they're going to want to know. But don't expect to get everything done as soon as you get back. Not possible. It's going to be a slow and a hectic go at when you get back in January, and it's guaranteed. So you need to give yourself that time to kind of ramp yourself back up and set expectations. With that, let's move right on to avoiding burnout before, during, and after the holidays, right? So the first thing is don't overcommit yourself in December. We've talked about this a little bit, right? When you set that statement, that initial statement of, hey, send it out to all your clients, send it out and like have that conversation with your manager, but hey, I'll be offline from December 24th to 2nd. Let's make sure that everything is finalized by December 20th, or even if you want December 10th, maybe it makes more sense, right? Like, no, we're not starting any new projects after December 10th. So you're making sure that December stays a little bit less hectic, because you know that like typical months, you have 4 weeks to get everything done. December, give or take, you have 2.5, right? So you need to like go lower in December on what you can do, so that you're not like overcommitted and then all of a sudden you're forced to work through the holidays. That happens all the time. If you expect your output to be the same as November, you're going to overcommit and you're going to work during the holidays, period. So make sure to not overcommit in December. And the next thing here is when you're actually taking a break, again, rest without guilt. Make sure that you actually are able to completely disconnect. completely get ready to go, get ready to do whatever the heck you want to do and not what you're forced to do. Actually take a true break. Take it. Don't feel guilty about it. Just take an actual break. That's the most important thing. Like, it's weird to say that, like, guilty about a break that you're, deserving and paid for most of the time. But it's hard especially when you're a workaholic or when you're trying to, start your career. It's hard to allow yourself to do that. But trust me, it's better for you, better for the company, better for everyone. Take the break.
I do want to actually mention something about that is, like, a lot of people actually stress about the break itself and then stress during the break as well. And one of the things is, you just mentioned it, is you don't want to, overload your sort of work schedule or your tasks, and then you end up having to work through the holidays. And that's a good one. But I know that a lot of people, myself included, will panic about that. Like, I'll be like, oh, did I take on too much? Did I take on this or that? What I think you should do is just sort of be like a little liberal with it. Like, so for example, like, I would have loved to get all the stuff I want to get done before Christmas, as of tomorrow. That's just not going to happen. Like, I'm a day behind on one thing. But what I've done is I've just been a little more sort of not necessarily relaxed on myself, but not hard on myself, like right in the kind of the sweet spot, so that, yeah, I'm going to have to work maybe up to maybe Christmas Eve, but I've given myself that buffer. I'm like, I'm still getting, Christmas off, and I'm still kind of chilling. Like, what I usually do is I just sort of, I don't seek out work in the holidays. I just sort of, like, if something comes up, I'll try to do it or I'll answer. That's just kind of how I treat the holidays, unless I specifically book off a brick of time. And so this year, since I'm working up to Christmas Eve or so, I don't feel too bad because I've given myself these tasks that I've chipped a lot away at. So now I'm just sort of like doing the busy work or doing the finishing touches. I'm not rushing through them. I'm just sort of throwing on a show and kind of finishing them and, doing some QA and things like that. And these tasks in particular are not going to go into production right away. So, if I miss a little thing here and there, which I'll try not to, but, I may, it's not a big deal. Right. So I've given myself this sort of like buffer of like, okay, I've finished everything that's actually really pertinent to clients, but there are some things that they're going to want to see. And I don't know if they're going to work during the holidays. So I'm still getting a lot done. These are tasks that are, totally legit tasks. It's just, I don't know when they're going to look at them. I said I was going to get them done before Christmas, so I'm going to do that. What this allows me to do is this allows me not to panic, where I'm like, oh my God, I said I was going to be done on Friday. I ended up working through the weekend, and it was supposed to be the holidays because I want to take the full 2 weeks off. And now what am I going to do? And then the thoughts start racing. You start panicking. Like, to me, it's just sort of like, I'm just going to get them done before Christmas. Like, that's the idea. There's a few buffer days in there. I'll work late tonight. Maybe I'll work on Saturday or Sunday or whatever. I'll just, try to make it for Christmas best I can. And that's it. And so I've like given myself serious tasks, like ones that needed to be done, but ones that aren't super stressful and ones that aren't going into production, which attributes to the stress level of the task as well. And that's how I deal with it. If I try to do like a hard cutoff and then every single day someone's calling me, which is not out of the realm, I start to panic, like, oh my God, I have to turn this person away, turn that person away. That person's calling me. Okay, I better take this on. Okay, this person. Okay, so when should I start turning people away? Is it a week before? Well, I have all these things scheduled, and then the thoughts are just all over the place. And so I try not to make the actual hard cutoff stressful, if that makes sense. It sounds strange, but I feel like there's going to be other people out there that do this, because I absolutely do this. I'll panic about it, and then I'll be like, okay, Friday I'm taking it off, and I'll leave, and then be like, but I didn't get those 2 things done, and I'm going to think about those throughout the entire holiday, and then I'll come back and be like, now I'm stressed out because I've been thinking the entire holiday about these stupid tasks. So this is how I've learned to manage it. It's not perfect, but it has helped.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Honestly, just giving yourself those like tasks that are big but not too crazy. Last thing I have here for avoiding burnout is, again, something I've already mentioned. Start January with realistic expectations. Right? Again, you're not going to be able to do all of everything that you push back the first week you get back. Maybe not even the second. Probably not the third. Potentially not the fourth. Right? Like, you're not going to be able to finish 15 different projects that you've told everyone that you're going to be able to finish the first, like, when you get back from vacation. In fact, my suggestion is to make sure that the first 2 days that you're back are days where you're just kind of doing a momentum building step. So prioritizing for the next week, just doing, busy work, trying to get your head back into the work environment. You're not throwing yourself into the most complex feature that you were just finishing off, right? Like you need to get back into a rhythm and you need to allow yourself to get back into a rhythm. Otherwise, all that work that you did during the holidays to prevent burnout will be undone in the first couple of days because you're going to be stressed. You're going to be pissed off at yourself that you're not able to get back to the same kind of level of productivity that you were at right away. You're going to, again, if you're overcommitted, you're going to piss off clients, et cetera, et cetera. So just have January set, especially the first week you get back, to be able to come back slowly to where you were at before. And last topic that we'll talk about this in this episode is going to be about making the most of your time off. Obviously, that's going to be like reconnecting with hobbies. You know, do whatever you wanted to do that you've been wanting to do for a while. Spend time with family and friends. That's obvious. Reflect and recharge. Maybe like do like some journaling. Do some professional growth goals for next year. You know, spend some time on yourself on where you're at and where you want to be. That's a kind of a really important step for any person. But one thing I do want to kind of talk about a little bit more in depth is like the holiday side project idea. I hesitate to suggest this, right? This is something that if you're a developer and an everyday coder, I almost kind of I would say avoid this if you can. If you're someone that really wants to build something and this is like your side project and like you're enthused about it and excited about it, yes, that's what the holiday side project is all about. It's for those people that are already like itching to build something outside of their work, especially if you're working on a tech stack, like at work, you're working on a tech stack you hate and you want to try something new. I could see that being the case. But if you find yourself being like, oh, I got to do the side project, don't do it, right? Like you don't want to force yourself to do kind of work again during your time off. So just because you see everyone on X posting about, oh, look at this side project I built over Christmas or whatever, doesn't mean you have to do it. You're already working. A lot of people that are posting on X are trying to farm likes. They're trying to do something else outside of work. They're trying to build an audience. It's different than you're just trying to relax, right? You need to focus on taking a break and allow yourself not to build a side project, if that makes sense. I just want to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent there because I just see like social media kind of like pushes the side project idea when you have time off or pushes you to like level up or skill up when you have time off. I'm kind of against that. If you're a full-time developer at this point, you need time off.
Well, there's a lot of that. Like you're right. Like some people, their New Year's resolution or something may be to create an audience, or they may have really good momentum currently on social, and they don't want that to go away, so they continue. Some people do act like 10x engineers a little bit, where they're like, well, there's time, and time equals money, and money is productivity, and whatever the formula is, and therefore I'm gonna run with every minute. And if you're taking a break, then you're losing money, you're losing productivity, and whatever. Like, I mean, those are those people. You can't be like, there's going to be different people for different reasons. You can't be everybody, and you can't be doing stuff all the time. That's just the reality behind it.
That's exactly it. Yep. So just let yourself take a break and just remember, set your boundaries, disconnect effectively, allow yourself to recharge. It's your time to reset, right? Like it's your time to be able to do whatever the heck it is you want, play that game, see those people that you haven't seen in a while. Just relax. Like you've done it. You got to the end of the year. You did it. Regardless of the situation, you're there. Allow yourself some time off. That's all I ask. And happy holidays. Hope everyone has a great break. Honestly, let us know what you're doing on your break. At HTML Everything on X. At HTML Things on Instagram, and I believe on Threads. Obviously, it's the same as Instagram. At HTML
we're on Threads as well. That's right.
We're on Blue Sky. I don't have the things. Do you have HTML Things on Blue Sky?
It's just me on Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's just me on Blue Sky as well. It's just Mike K, I think, if you just go to Mike K. But anyway, we'll have the links in the show notes at some point.
There's so many. There are so many freaking like social media networks now. It's ridiculous. It's like which accounts are on which. It's like, man, what are we doing here? Like we're on Facebook as well. You can go on there. Like,
heck yeah! And then remember, we're gonna have another holiday episode next week.
Yeah, this is coming out on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, this is coming out Christmas Eve. We're gonna have another one all about the 2024 year in review. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a fun one.
Christmas Eve day. This should be out. Yeah, hopefully it's, I'll be panicking about this and won't be taking a break now. I think this is just going to be a busy holiday season. I'm going to be working and doing a bunch of family stuff and whatever, but I am going to take a couple days to sit down. That's what I usually say. It's like, I'm going to go lay down. Or I'll give you a really lame and awesome video game reference, a really obscure one. I hear a bunk calling my name. That's all you get. What game is that? You let me know. Let us know on the socials.
I love it.
Turning it into a
I love it.
Man, I fucking love that game too. And it didn't review too great, but man. Anyway, so yeah, so enjoy that. That concludes our first of 2 holiday-centric episodes. Holiday/New Year-centric episodes. And with that, remember we are on Patreon. That's patreon.com/HTML. All the things. Check out the tiers and give that a go. Many thanks to our $3 tier patrons, Tim from the Web Hacker on thewebhacker.com, Jason from Geek Life Radio via geekliferadio.com, Garrett Segal, Level Up Financial Planning via www.levelupfinancialplanning.com, Magnus from YesWeb from yesweb.se, Syntaxify from the HTML All the Things Discord server, and Stacy Mosteler from swoonworthydesigns.com. And remember, we also would like to give a shout out to Michael Araka, contributing author on HTMLallthethings.com. Michael is the author of Self-Taught, the X Generation blog at selftaughttxg.com. Feel free to leave a comment or a review on the platform that you are listening to this on, and this outro will sign us off. And happy holidays if you're listening to this right on Christmas Eve. That's crazy. Or in between, or anytime. Happy holidays. Goodbye.
You've been listening to HTML All the Things podcast. Web development, web design, and small business. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you appreciate that we talk to you like human beings. And we hope you had some fun. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon at HTML All the Things. And on Twitter at HTML Everything. Until next time, this is HTML All the Things, signing off.